Imagine this. You are a gnome, small, sneaky, and with a huge list of things to steal. Burglin Gnomes is exactly the type of game that seems simple on the surface, but the more you play, the more you realize there's a layer of strategy that catches you off guard. And I learned this the hard way. During my first few heists, I thought it was just a matter of going in, grabbing everything, and leaving. Spoiler, that is not quite how it works. The homeowners do not appreciate your visit, and things get complicated very quickly. So today, I brought the 10 tips I learned through experience, and they might change the way you plan every heist. I'm Matthew, and the video is about to start. If you have played Burglin Gnomes in a group, you know that chaos is almost automatic. Everyone enters at the same time, runs in different directions, and grabs whatever they see, and in the end, no one does what really matters. I have lost several runs this way simply because no one had a defined role. What actually changed my matches was starting to organize the team before entering. It might seem simple, but defining who does what completely transforms the group dynamic. Instead of 6 desperate gnomes, you become a coordinated team where every action has a purpose. Usually, it works well to have 1 or 2 players focused on the main objectives while the rest handle the loot. This is where the roles already used by the community come in. The scout clears the path and identifies safe routes. The hauler carries the heavier items. The distractor draws the human's attention at the right moments. And the anchor secures the exit and assists anyone needing to retreat. When everyone respects these roles, the game flows more naturally. You avoid the classic problem of everyone going to the same spot and start covering much more area efficiently. Ultimately, it is not just about organization, it is about turning chaos into strategy. If there is one skill I was slow to value, it is the use of shortcuts. At the beginning, I played in the most obvious way, entering through doors and walking through the map as if everything were safe. However, this game rewards those who prioritize mobility, and windows and pipes are simply essential. Once I started using windows as the primary entry and exit route, everything became faster and much safer. They allow you to take shortcuts, escape dangerous situations, and even reposition inside the house without wasting time. It is the type of thing that, when mastered, makes it feel like you are always one step ahead of the chaos. And the toilet, it sounds like a meme, but it is one of the strongest tools in the game. You can use it both to escape quickly and to send items outside without the risk of carrying everything yourself. In tighter runs, this is a lifesaver, as you secure the loot even when the situation starts to spiral. Mastering these shortcuts is not just about moving faster, it is about playing smarter. You enter better, exit better, and significantly reduce the risk of losing everything. Once you get the hang of it, it is difficult to go back to playing without abusing these alternative routes. The game makes it clear that there is a detection system linked to noise, but in practice, many people ignore this at first. I did too, until I realized that the best runs are those in which you barely exist inside the house. The noise budget becomes a mini game within the heist. Every dropped object, every broken item, and every careless movement adds to this invisible limit you do not want to exceed. So I started playing more calmly, choosing cleaner routes, avoiding noisy shortcuts, and thinking 2 steps ahead before interacting with everything. The most interesting part is how this completely changes the pace of the gameplay. Instead of grabbing everything as fast as possible, you begin to play more strategically, almost surgically. There are moments when it is more worth it to leave loot behind than to risk making noise and compromising the entire run. This type of decision is what separates a chaotic heist from a truly clean execution. Controlling noise is not just about avoiding humans, it is about mastering the flow of the game. When you enter this controlled state, everything clicks. The movements, the timing, and even the loot you manage to secure. That is when Burglin Gnomes truly shines, as it rewards those who play with intelligence rather than just speed. One of the biggest traps is the urge to start the run by grabbing the most valuable and difficult items. I have fallen for this several times, thinking I was being efficient, and in the end, I lost everything because the situation spiraled out of control before securing the basics. What really makes a difference is stopping for 2 seconds at the start to look at the task list calmly. Instead of going straight for the complicated ones, focus on the 3 simplest ones first. It may seem like little, but this significantly improves run security as you guarantee the minimum necessary progress. Once you complete those 3, the game changes. The pressure drops significantly because even if everything goes wrong afterward, like a total party wipe, you still leave with the mission completed. And in practice, that is what keeps your progression consistent. From there, it is worth starting to take more risks, going after heavy items and harder objectives. But with a solid base already guaranteed, playing this way keeps everything much more controlled and avoids the frustration of losing an entire run by trying to do everything at once. One thing the game does not forgive, and that I learned the hard way, is the physics of dangerous items. In Burglin Gnomes, it is not just the human that is a threat. You yourself can end the run if you are not careful. I have had matches that seemed perfect and ended because someone got hurt by their own weapon. Knives, traps, and other objects are not just tools, they have weight and direction. If you pick one of these up without paying attention, you might end up pointing it at yourself or an ally without realizing it. And in the middle of the rush, all it takes is a clumsy collision to cause an accident. This becomes even more dangerous when the group is together in tight spaces. A push, someone running in the wrong direction, or even that moment of desperation when the human appears, all of this greatly increases the chance of an accidental discharge or someone triggering a trap unintentionally. Once you understand this, you start playing much more carefully, always paying attention to the position of the item, avoiding abrupt movements, and most importantly, respecting other players' space. It may seem like a detail, but this type of care is what separates a clean run from a disaster caused by your own team. If there is one upgrade that I consider practically mandatory at the start, it is the Gnomium Gloves. At the beginning, you can even ignore them and power through, but after a few runs, you realize how much their absence limits you, especially when you start dealing with heavier items. I realized this when I started wasting too much time trying to carry large objects. Your gnome becomes slow, clumsy, and any mistake can be costly, not to mention the risk of simply not being able to handle the weight properly. That is where the gloves come in and completely change the feeling of the game. With the Gnomium Gloves, everything is more fluid. You move better, manage to carry heavy items with much more control, and stop struggling with situations where the game feels like it is fighting against you. It is an upgrade that not only improves your efficiency, but also significantly reduces risk during the heist. Therefore, whenever I start a new progression, this is one of the first crafts I prioritize. It might seem like a simple investment, but the impact is enormous. After you play with them, it is clear that it is not a luxury. It is practically part of the basic kit for conducting decent heists. Dealing with the human in the house is one of the most tense parts of Burglin Gnomes, and for a long time, I simply ran away without a plan. It worked sometimes, but most of the time it only delayed the inevitable. It was when I started using the environment to my advantage that things really changed. Hiding under beds and behind sofas is one of the most classic tactics in the game, but there is a detail that many people ignore. You need to keep moving. Staying still in a hiding spot is practically a sentence. The trick is to use these pieces of furniture as temporary cover while you reposition and plan your next move. But what really elevates this strategy is combining the hiding spot with items from the environment. Soap on the floor to make the human slip, bees to create confusion, anything that delays the pursuit and gives you those extra seconds that make all the difference. I have saved entire runs just by paying attention to the items scattered around the house. In the end, the human does not have to be an impossible obstacle. With a little creativity and attention to your surroundings, you can turn any dangerous situation into an opportunity to escape and continue the heist. This is what separates those who just survive from those who truly control the run. If there is one thing I was slow to realize, it is that your base is not a place to store everything. And trying to use it that way only slows you down. The Mushroom Hut functions much more as a production point than as storage, and understanding this early changes how you evolve in the game. The secret lies in accelerating base upgrades as soon as possible. Taking the shelter to level 2 or 3 is not just an optional detail. It is a game changer. This is the point where you unlock truly useful things, like mannequins, which finally resolve the issue of where to leave your equipment without making a mess. Once you start using the base correctly, the game flows better. You stop coming back from heists lost on what to do with items and start having a clear structure. Materials go to crafting, upgrades keep running, and equipment stays organized as it should have been from the start. For me, this is one of those tips that do not seem so important at first, but silently improve everything. When your mushroom hut is well managed, you waste less time, make better decisions, and maintain a much more consistent rhythm between heists. One thing the game does not make so obvious at the beginning is that not everything that moves wants to attack you. I spent several runs panicking whenever any creature appeared, trying to run away or even provoking them unnecessarily, and that only made the situation worse. With time, you realize there is almost a rule of coexistence. For example, seagulls only become a problem if you mess with their eggs. If you simply ignore them, they ignore you too. Understanding this avoids a lot of unnecessary confusion during a heist. Now, the most interesting part is when you start using these creatures to your advantage. Bees are the best example of this. If you know how to position yourself well, you can make them attack the human or cause a distraction, creating a perfect opportunity to escape or complete an objective. Of course, not everything is friendly. Rats, cockroaches, and the human themselves remain real threats at all times. But when you learn to differentiate what is a danger and what can become an advantage, the game becomes much more strategic. You stop reacting to everything and start better controlling what is happening around you. If there is one thing that ruins runs most often, it is not the human or the traps, it is greed. That urge to grab just one more item has destroyed more of my matches than any other mistake. And the worst part is, at the moment, it always seems like a good idea. The problem is that the game punishes you exactly for that. When you have already completed the main objectives and start stretching the heist too far, everything starts to go wrong. The human appears more often, the team separates, someone misses the timing, and suddenly, what was a guaranteed run becomes a disaster. I started to improve significantly when I accepted a simple rule. Did you do the essentials and the situation started to become chaotic? Leave. Without thinking twice, because in the end, what really matters is securing progress, especially considering that everything depends on returning alive with the group. This mindset completely changes the way you play. Instead of risking everything for one more item, you start doing consistent runs, one after another. And just like in other games of this style, knowing when to leave is not cowardice, is exactly what separates those who progress from those who just lose everything in the end.
I could never